This is something that I've been thinking about for quite some time now when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and if it can do this, which would be a first since probably the original Xenoblade Chronicles back when that came out in 2010 in Japan, 2011 in Europe, and 2012 here in the US. But before we get into anything, what's good everyone, OJ here, welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my Xenoblade, RPG, and Nintendo videos first. Now let's go ahead and jump right into it here, and we're talking about if Xenoblade Chronicles 3 can kind of break the franchise curse and get some nominations when it comes to Game of the Year, RPG of the Year, music, story, and all of that. And remember guys, this is simply just talking about the Keeley Awards and many of the mainstream press sites, because obviously Xenoblade Chronicles has been nominated in previous type of award shows for various different websites, or if you have your own personal Game of the Year and stuff like that, we know Xenoblade has been highly awarded for stuff like that. That's not really something that we're questioning right now. We're talking about if it can actually break into more of the mainstream out there now that we finally have a modern and Xenoblade game that's coming out in a pretty good time period, because usually these have staggered releases or they release at the end of the year after a lot of the awards have been already determined. So for example, dating all the way back to 2015 with Xenoblade Chronicles X, that came out here in the West at the end of the year. Also, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, that was December of 2017. And now we're at this point, with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So we finally have a clean release in the middle of the year where people have a good opportunity to gauge it against the games that had already came out and some of the games that are coming later. Now, I also want to make sure that I say this, guys, because obviously this is going to be said quite a bit in the comment section, so I already know what's coming. Yes, Elden Ring and of course God of War Ragnarok, these games are probably going to win the majority of the awards and what people are talking about, the best games, reviews. I completely get that. All I'm talking about here is if Xenoblade Chronicles 3 can be a contender, if it can get into the actual table, the round table, before Xenoblade's been left out in the outhouse, in the back, in the doghouse. But can Xenoblade actually get to that table to at least be on that stage and get some more eyes on the franchise? Because this one is looking to be probably the best selling and most publicized Xenoblade game since, of course, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 sold over 2 million units on the Nintendo Switch. So in my own personal belief, obviously Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has a great opportunity for myself, but I do think that it has a chance. Now, does it have a great chance? Well, we'll have to wait and see, but so far, based off of a lot of the mainstream previews for the game is shaping up to be a lot more user-friendly. It's shaping up to be even more massive than Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It looks to be on par or right around what Xenoblade Chronicles X is, but it retains some of the charm, the combat, the good things from all the different Xenoblade games, kind of all combined into one. Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade 2, Torna, X, everything kind of combined, plus its own little sauce and flavor on top of that. Now, previews and leaked copies and stuff should be starting up soon, because officially Xenoblade is coming out next week. It'll be Friday next week, it'll be coming out. So you're going to start seeing more people talk about it. You're going to start seeing more people say, okay, this is really good or this isn't good. So I thought that this was the best time to see exactly where this game is going to fit in. But we still have more big games to come out for the rest of the year, but this will probably once again be the best rated game since the original Xenoblade Chronicles, so it's worth talking about when it comes to Game of the Year consideration. What does the game have going for it? Well, it has a lot going for it. One, it's the best looking Nintendo Switch RPG in my opinion of this size. I don't think there's another RPG that's the size of this, open world and everything, so we're talking about games that have that massive land size that look as good as this and have as much going on screen while keeping a nice clip going with the frame rate and everything. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is very impressive. It's doing things even a lot of PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X, whatever the case is, games that are optimized or come out for are not doing. 7 characters on screen all fighting at the same time. You can switch between 6 of them. On top of that, a bunch of different enemies, all with different type of notifications and things popping up and effects and everything in a seamless open world. So if you wanted to run away from that battle and hop right into another one, and by the way, these monsters are absolutely gigantic, so it's not like they're rendering just a bunch of little little stuff on screen. It's fairly impressive what they're doing with this engine and this tech. So it has that going for it. For a Switch title, and even just for an RPG game in general, there's a lot to like about what it does. And on top of that, you have all the different polish and shine from Monolith Soft. So we're talking about the music that they usually use, Yasunori Mitsuda, Ace and everything like that, the sound effects, the combat mechanics, the systems. Monolith Soft has honed their craft over the past decades, 2-3 decades, of just making sure that they make some of the most addictive and fun battle systems out there when you give it the opportunity for you to actually try it out. Now, if you're overwhelmed early and you don't want to learn it, then yes, it can definitely overpower some people. But if you give it the opportunity and learn the mechanics and the system, it's easily one of the most addictive battle systems, or they've been able to build some of the most addictive battle systems out there. So it does have a lot going for it when it comes to music, sound, gameplay, everything, their experience, the story. I mean, if you've played Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, or if you know the stories of all the different games, then this is just going to be an emotional roller coaster that's going to end like incredibly. That's probably going to end incredibly and is going to maybe even bring a tear to your eye. So as a big Xenoblade fan myself, which most of the mainstream are not, but for those who actually get into it, goodness gracious, this is going to be awesome. I can already tell that it has the makings of a story that's just going to be legendary. So it also has that going for it. But what does it have going against it when it comes to Game of the Year and all that? Well, quite a bit. Obviously, with all the cool mechanics and, you know, systems and stuff that they do, that's going to cause confusion for some people. The UI, although you can do some custom things to switch some stuff around to where it's not as much crowded or anything, there is still that's going to confuse some of the more casual or mainstream audience. Obviously, you have the auto battling, which some people don't like because of the style of combat that it kind of ensues. So there's that kind of going against it. And on top of it, it's Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So there's automatically going to be people say, well, I don't know 1 and I don't know 2, so I'm not really going to head into this with really an open mind. So those are all the things when it comes to Game of the Year consideration, when it comes to what people are kind of rounding up for that, for the Keeley Awards, that's going to be going against it. But you also have to look at it like this. The people that review these games for these websites, they're not necessarily the same people who are going to be voting for the websites when it comes down to the Keeley Awards, and that's the Game Awards, guys, for those who don't know, or for a lot of these mainstream websites. A lot of times when it comes to these Japanese RPGs or these different style of games, they get people that are into Japanese RPGs. They get freelancers to kind of do that. So then when it comes time for Game of the Year discussions or nominations or votes, a lot of those people that played those games for those websites aren't there, or they're not normal employees, so they're not voting. So that's why there's a little bit of a disconnect when you don't see Xenoblade Chronicles nominated for things, or you don't see certain Japanese RPGs that get more credit or get more publicity, is because a lot of these people didn't probably even play the game or even know about it because they got somebody else to do it, or their resident RPG person. So that's one big notch against it. Whereas everybody from these websites is going to play Elden Ring. Everybody from these websites is going to play God of War Ragnarok. Everyone's going to play the big casual game, the big Mario, the big Zelda, the big whatever, to get their input and say what they've got to say. Whereas the people who are playing Xenoblade Chronicles and all that and reviewing, they don't necessarily get their say in it. So that is a big, big strike against Xenoblade Chronicles. But at the same time, this one could break through because of some of the stuff that it's doing on the Nintendo Switch. That's pretty unique. And once again, a nice and clear launch. Like, there's not many other big games that are launching around Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It didn't launch early in the year with Horizon and Elden Ring. God of War Ragnarok is later. There's some other games that are coming out as well. But for right now, the summer is clear. So it's going to give people plenty of time to try it out, maybe to kind of give it some publicity and to see where it stacks up amongst some of the other games out there. But I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what people think and kind of what happens there. Now, there's multiple different type of nominations here, though, guys. I mean, it's not just about Game of the Year. I think that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has a good track to get nominated for RPG of the Year. Maybe not win it because of Elden Ring, but get nominated for RPG of the Year. I think story could be something in there as well. I think music is another one. And I feel that if Xenoblade Chronicles 3, based on what we've heard so far, doesn't at least get a nod for music, I mean, I already know that it's a fraudulent award show, but I think that so far, from the music that we've heard in some of the biggest games, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 to me is already kind of, you know, the front runner, but we still need to wait and see and hear some of the other tracks and kind of what's going on. But if it's based off of what we've seen before from Xenoblade Chronicles games, I think this one is definitely going to be at the top of the board here. But once again, you know, I'm not trusting the Keeley Awards with music and stuff. They often just kind of just do whatever game is the most popular sometimes, instead of what actually has the different types of music and kind of different types of sounds and is unique and kind of fits the battle. I mean, and sometimes they even do licensed music soundtracks. I think like Death Stranding, yes, there's original music, but a lot of it's licensed music. So, I mean, they have their own set of rules and stuff that they apply by and all that. So you can't always trust it. I really can't trust it at all. But at the end of the day, I mean, Octopath Traveler was nominated back then, you know, so we'll see if something happens here. But I do think that there are other things. Now, when it comes to other websites, guys, once again, you know, I think that Xenoblade does have a chance. I think that there's going to be a lot of the RPG sites and other smaller websites that kind of say, yeah, Xenoblade's in there, or maybe even win Game of the Year for some people. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But at the end of the day, does it really matter when it comes down to the Game of the Year and stuff like that? I mean, obviously it's great, right? I want to see Monolith Soft do well. And if you win or get nominated for Game of the Year, it's a big boost to the publicity of the game and more people even giving it a shot. Metroid Dread got a nice boost after it was nominated for so many different awards from so many different places. So I would love to see Xenoblade Chronicles, a franchise that definitely needs it, get that type of publicity and get that type of cred, because I feel that it's worth it. It's that good, especially with this new one coming out. But we'll see how the reviews do. We'll see what people have to say. We'll see what's going on with the music and the story and the combat and what it does, and if it holds up more or better than what we've seen before in the past. And then we can kind of go from there to kind of gauge more if it's going to get into that final push for Game of the Year or not. But it's interesting enough to talk about, right? So what do you guys think when it comes to what I talked about here with Xenoblade Chronicles 3? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.